So you know what I find really interesting? You know how, like, the people who are still in the world who don't know the Lord, they have a difficult time differentiating their sin from their identity. And that's why whenever, you know, we call out sin or their sin that they might be secretly struggling with, they get super defensive because they have integrated that as their personality, as who they are. When we know that sins are not who we are, our flesh is not who we are. It's what we are trapped in, yes, but the Lord frees us from that in a spiritual sense. And although there's still that little struggle there, the closer we get to the Lord, the more it goes away. But I noticed something interesting, because the enemy does this in a different way as well. So we know that when we are filled with the Holy Spirit, God lives inside of us, but we are not God. So we're very much aware that we are not God. We are wretched human beings who God saved, and now that He lives inside of us, He is purifying us. He is making us better. But that does not mean that we are becoming God or that we are now gods. But it's interesting how I was thinking about it, because of course I just watched a sad video of another young person who ended their life over ChatGPT, essentially telling them that it's their mission to save the world, and gave them a full-blown Messiah complex, which I can relate all too well. Honestly, I was feeling a pit in my stomach even just listening to the story, because I remember going insane, feeling that way before I found the Lord, when I was in New Age and very deep in all of that stuff, you know, reading all these books, Eastern mysticism, Egyptian, you know, dark arts, all these things. But essentially, the enemy wants people to have a Messiah complex or a God complex. And they're actually kind of two different things depending on the person. A God complex is normally going to gear more towards like narcissism. So that person thinking that they are truly better than everybody else, that everyone else needs to bow down to them, you know, like a full-blown narcissist. A Messiah complex, on the other hand, is usually people who are already highly empathetic or people pleasers for the most part, and they are tricked by these demonic entities to believe that they need to, and again, they're usually the kids who had, you know, abusive parents growing up, so they always felt like it was their fault. It was their fault for everything, that they couldn't fix something, so they went out into the world trying to fix everything else and everyone else so they could feel worthy, essentially. And the enemy knows this so well. He knows how to play off of this, and sadly it's happening to so many people. But yeah, so essentially that is what he builds in people who struggle with that. But it's interesting because this whole, like, even both of them, Messiah complex, God complex, he essentially makes them believe it's the same deal. So it's the same thing as what I was saying before, like, that people in the world, aka people who are still, you know, with the enemy, they can't separate themselves from their sin. They see it as their identity. They see it as that's them, that's who they are. And this is the same thing, but on the flip side. They can't, the enemy has gotten them to believe that they are God, that they are source, that they are like one with this source, and they are God. So do you see how this is the basis for insanity? The basis for insanity is not being able to compartmentalize and see your own autonomy and something else separate from you But in this situation, like, God is separate from us entity-wise, but he lives in us. And I know that that is obviously not something that someone of the world can like fully understand unless they experience it. But I mean, we could even just think about it as like, you know, parents and children. A healthy family dynamic would be where a parent parents that child. That child does not have autonomy yet. They don't know that they have autonomy yet until they are around, I want to say, probably like five or so, but they're not aware that they are like separate from their parents, if that makes sense. So they are actually in a state of psychosis. This is a proven psychological thing. Children up until that age are in a state of psychosis, and that is where their minds are the most moldable. That is where their minds are can't talk tonight, clearly. Their minds are the most easily malleable and bendable and shapeable in those formative years. And that's because they don't have autonomy yet. They don't see themselves as their own entity. And that is a very, very big thing that differentiates God's reality versus a demonic illusion, which, what did I said before? Demonic illusion equals delusion. Delusion, demonic illusion. And it breaks my heart because I'm like listening to this one case, which I'm 100% going to make a YouTube video on this because there's too much not to talk about in this this case. But yeah, I mean, this poor girl, she was a Christian in the sense of she grew up in the church, and surprise, surprise, the church failed her. Just like all these other churches are failing their congregations because they are not teaching them about spiritual warfare. They're not teaching them about psychological manipulation that Satan plays on people. Because they don't even understand. These pastors don't even understand it themselves half the time. And that's fine. That's fine if you don't understand it. But listen to people who do understand it. And maybe take some like notes. Because you have these poor children ending their lives being in spiritual warfare in ChatGPT or wherever, anywhere, because you can't explain to them like what to look out for. So yeah, I just thought it was super interesting, this whole always trying to find the words. The fact that in essence it's a lack of or a disintegration of someone's autonomy, of somebody's, well, obviously someone having basis in reality, but to be grounded in reality is to have autonomy. So yeah, I'm going to make a long video on this. I can't say for sure when, but this is for sure going to be the first video on my list that I will be making a long form video on, because there's so many points to touch on in this, and it really is important to talk about. But all right, love you guys.